It's because it is what we're attempting to control is a very fast-moving environment. And so using a flexible and responsive tool like regulation, which can be changed more easily than legislation, making sure that the legislation is very sound on principles, but that the regulation enables you to adapt in whichever way the legislature might decide it needs to adapt, whether to make things stricter or to make things more relaxed. That's just a good thing when you're dealing with something that is a fast-moving environment. So I think that's a sensible move. And then turning to the substance of your question, which is, what can we control and what can we not control? I do still see that having control for public bodies with their suppliers, with clear regulations that must be complied with in British Columbia, gives us a stronger position than controlling only the data residency piece and having less levers on other elements.
Adam has a follow-up.
Okay, and that's fine, but wouldn't it be better if, isn't an option to control it all?
It is an option. I think it's an option that loses some of the real benefits of accessing modern tools and best current thinking on how to manage things efficiently. So as with all things, there does need to be a balance between, shall we call it, efficiency and responsiveness and protection and restriction. And I think it's important to have a balance of both so that government can actually access the best technology tools available to deliver its business.
Okay. Leave it there.
All right. You can come back if you want to ask something later, Adam. John? John?
No, I don't want to get into that.
The fuck that crazy bitch said?
Best current thinking on how to manage things efficiently. So as with all things, there does need to be a balance between, shall we call it, efficiency and responsiveness and protection and restriction. And I think it's important to have a balance of both so that government can actually access the best technology tools available to deliver its business. And I think it's important to have a balance of both so that government can actually access the best technology tools available to deliver its business.
Okay. Leave it there.
All right. You can come back if you want to ask something later, Adam. John? John?
No, I don't want to get into that.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your presentation. And you maybe made me wonder, would we as a jurisdiction have a problem if our data was stored in China, or if our data was stored in Russia, or if our data was stored in Ukraine? And it makes me wonder, we're in a world where, yes, we've got allies, we've got people, the Americans or, European states, other jurisdictions that we're good friends with, that, we have a trust relationship of some kind. But as we've seen in the world events just recently, and we've seen historically, things can change, and things can change quite rapidly. And so you put something out there in terms of data, and it basically is anywhere in the world, depending on the restrictions and the access and the security you've got attached to it. But there is still the physical, location of that data, which creates a vulnerability. And not necessarily even from just an access perspective, but what happens if a bomb goes off, right? I mean, there's the physical side that can be very disruptive to data as well. And so I'm curious, and made me wonder, even in our own country, during the pandemic, the Canadian Security Agency, or whatever they call it, tracked 30 million plus cell phone uses and where those people were moving around in cell phone, and used it for health. Used it to help guide government in terms of health. People didn't even know their cell phones were being monitored and tracked in terms of where they went. But it just goes to show that under certain circumstances, data can be utilized, whether or not there's permission or not. And that could be utilized by various countries or various other jurisdictions just as easily. And so from a data security perspective, wouldn't it make more sense if we were to invest and set up, repositories in British Columbia for, critical information, data and personal information? And now, I get it, there's companies around the world that are really good about it, but just from a physical data perspective, wouldn't it make sense if we were to invest and have that data stored in our own jurisdiction?
I think it's a really smart